just a few days ago, I was at Father Ben's 25th anniversary of priesthood, this Mass to celebrate him. The bishop was there and everything. And just a joyous occasion. And afterwards, actually bumped into someone who I've known for many years, a former seminarian, Richmond. Some of you might know him. And so we bumped into each other afterwards at the reception, and it was great to reconnect. In fact, he was one of the guys who 25 years ago around this time, he was one of the inspirations to me. I actually, August, September will make 25 years since I joined the community. So, quarter century, major milestones here. And anyways, we're talking to Rich, and he's like the same in so many ways, just passionate and joyful and on fire. And he's sharing stories about, he's doing a lot of chaplaincy work in high schools over the years, and stories of working with students and challenging them in the same way that Father Bob did. Things like, hey, you know what? Even if God, you don't believe in God, He believes in you, and He hasn't given up on you. And I challenge you to just open your heart a little bit and say, God, if you're real, show me. And just in these little ways, but so on fire. And I was moved by that and convicted by his sense of urgency, this urgency to evangelize. Because even in my own heart, it's so easy to grow complacent because life is busy and there's so many other important things in ministry to get to that we can lose that urgent edge. There's nothing more urgent or important, as the church herself defines the mission, why she exists, is to evangelize. And that's why the companions exist. That's why, even as an office, why we exist, to support that work of evangelization. And we have this gospel today that I've been privileged to hear a dear friend, a personal friend of Father Bob, speak many times, Ralph Martin. And I think in every single talk I've ever heard him give, in some way, he weaves in Matthew chapter 7. And he'll often ask these crowds of people, like, as Jesus said, enter, the gate is wide and the road is easy that leads to life, and many find it, right? And it's like, the gate and the road is narrow and hard to find, and few find it, the one that leads to destruction. And people are sort of like, wait a minute. And it's the exact opposite. And I think, perhaps Ralph's life mission is that God gave him this prophetic word, a very simple word, but to speak up against a common misconception, something we call universalism, which is basically, it's a heresy, I guess, that suggests that everybody universally, automatically goes to heaven. And you hear that all the time at funerals, and you understand why, right? There's people are grieving and they want to hope for something. You hear that even among non-believers, they'll just kind of speak in a way that presumes that we all end up in paradise. And yet Ralph's point and drawing from the scripture is that Jesus himself did not paint that picture. He actually was a very sobering message. Enter through the narrow gates, for the gate is wide, the road is easy that leads to destruction. And there are many who take it. But the gate is narrow and the road is hard that leads to life, and there are few who find it. And I was just thinking, I just got back from Montreal this morning and following my GPS. Thanks be to God for GPS. I don't know how I would have ever survived. But, every once in a while, I'll miss a turn and it's like, oh no, I'm on the wrong road. And now total mayhem and rerouting. And there was a few times where I literally, if I had stayed on the highway with the huge amount of traffic, I would have been stuck there bumper to bumper. But I found some side road or some feeder road, and I followed that. And maybe there were a few stop signs, but it was much faster on this narrow road to make progress forward. And that's what Jesus is saying. Like don't just go with the flow. it's following me is not going to necessarily be that popular. It's a choice, a deliberate choice to swim upstream, to be a disciple, as opposed to just going along with everybody else. And it may seem that all kinds of other people are just quite content. And yet, what the milieu of universalism gives us all a false sense of ease, that it's all good. We're all kind of ending up in the same place, so don't worry about it. And then we can become complacent when it comes to evangelization. And that's where this passage here today is such a reminder. No, there's an urgency. We can never take our foot off the gas pedal. We have to make this the top priority of all the important things that we do. This has to be number one, to help people discover Jesus and help them, guide them, even hold their hand to say yes to him, to follow him, because it's that kind of life, walking with him along this narrow road, that will lead ultimately to paradise. And so let's ourselves choose the narrow road and reflect on, Lord, what are the ways where I find myself drifting into the broad road of destruction? I want to get back on your narrow road, and I want to bring other people, because we know that you're not happy about anybody landing up or heading down the road to destruction. We know that you desire every single person would come to know you and be saved.